Even if you are not your board's voting delegate, or maybe even if you're not planning to attend, this information will be helpful to you because you'll be learning a little bit about how WSSDA advocates on your behalf using member adopted positions, as well as to get a little bit of a refresher tutorial from our own parliamentarian and WSSDA consultant on Robert's Rules of Order and Parliamentary Procedure, which will help you in your own capacity at the local level. So please stay with us, even if you're not joining General Assembly this week, because if it's not you this year, it might be you next year. So my name's Marissa Rathbone. I am your WSSDA's Director of Strategic Advocacy. I support and serve all of you in the capacity of representing you with the Washington State Legislature. It is an honor to be in this role. I've been here for going on 6 years now, and I am also honored to be able to sit beside one of our newest members of the WSSDA team, my friend and now colleague, Heather Curl, Dr. Heather Curl. I wanted to give her an opportunity to introduce herself, as you will be having the opportunity to work closely with her in her new capacity as the Director of Leadership Development. Heather, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks so much, Marissa. I'm so happy to be here. Oh, I'm on mute. Can you hear me? Yes.
I was on mute.
Oh, okay. I'm super happy to be here. Really excited to meet you all. Are you hearing that feedback, or is it just me?
Nope, hearing feedback.
I'm going to ask those of you joining if you wouldn't mind muting your own microphones, and I will work on muting for you as well, but please go ahead and do that beforehand.
Can you hear me now? Oh, good. That's better. So I'm Heather Curl, super excited to be here and to meet everyone at General Assembly if you're joining, certainly annual conference later on. I come with a lot of experience in leadership and change, and as a classroom teacher and a teacher in higher ed as well, and a consultant. So super excited to be here, Marissa. Thanks.
And we're just thrilled to have her on our team. She comes with just a breadth and depth of educational and adult learning theory experience, as well as direct classroom experience. So brings a lens to our team that we haven't ever had before, and which will benefit all of you. So looking forward to working more together on that. And in the meantime, we are ramping up for the 2024 WSSDA General Assembly, which occurs this coming Friday and Saturday. As a reminder, we ask each board identify a single voting delegate who is responsible for registering and representing their board during the 2 days of voting on member adopted positions. There are some details in all of there that we can discuss, but just as a reminder, if you are the voting delegate, but maybe have to sign off at some point on Friday afternoon or sometime during Saturday, that voting credential can be shared amongst your school director fellows on the same board. Only board members can participate in General Assembly, as this is a school board event. And we have multiple position proposals in front of the body to discuss/debate and then potentially adopt to become a formal part of the WSSDA platform. To help you prepare in a variety of different ways, today's agenda includes a bit of a tutorial from our colleague with the Lumi platform. Lumi is the platform that we have used for the last actual 5 years, during which time we've either been fully remote or at least in a hybrid capacity delivering General Assembly, so that all of our members can participate, whether they're joining from a remote part of the state and in the comforts of their own home, or, as is true this year and last year, wish to participate in person. Everyone will be using the same voting platform to participate in the voting process of General Assembly. We wanted to be sure you understood how that's going to work, and so we invited our colleague Michelle Hovey from Lumi to walk us through what it means to be a voting delegate in the Lumi platform. Thanks for joining us, Michelle. Nice to see your face, and I've given you screen share capacity, and I will hand it to you to take it from here.
Perfect. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having me. As Marissa said, I will go through a quick tutorial on how to use the Lumi meeting platform that will be used this weekend at General Assembly. If there are any questions, please do feel free to raise your hand or type them in the chat, and Marissa will go ahead and interrupt me, and we will make sure we get those questions answered. Okay, so first of all, we're going to be talking about those attending virtually at home. We do ask that you use a desktop computer or a laptop computer for the best optimal viewing experience. Our platform is not fully supported on mobile just quite yet. A microphone is also required should you wish to speak from the floor while at home. We do recommend that you use Google Chrome as well. Edge or Firefox will also work, but please do not use Internet Explorer or Safari if you are at home. For those of you that will be attending in person, you may use any type of smart device that can access the internet. So mobile phones, iPhones, iPads, they will work for those attendees in the meeting room. And please make sure to have your devices charged up and ready to go for the duration of the meeting each day. If you are in the meeting room, any web browser will work except Internet Explorer. Wi-Fi will be provided in the meeting room as well, or you may use your own cellular data. Now we will talk about how to log into this meeting platform. Okay, so virtual attendees at home, to log into the meeting platform, you may click on the link that was sent to you in the email, or you can go to the WSSDA homepage. There will be a big blue button that says Enter General Assembly. That will get you to the Lumi meeting platform as well. You will be taken to an info page first, so please read the information about the supported types of devices, and then you must scroll down to the bottom of that page, and you can tick the little box that says I agree, and then click the Accept button. You will then be taken to a second page with two options. You can select I am an audience member if you are viewing only, or if you are the voting delegate, you will select the I am a voting delegate option and then click Continue. Voting delegates, you will need to log in with your district ID and the assigned password. If you are simply an audience member and viewing only, we will ask you to type in your name and email address for record purposes, but you do not need the district ID or password to sign in as an audience member for viewing only. There is also a little button that says having trouble logging in. That will contain the help desk information should you have any questions while logging into the platform. Okay, then we will be taken to another screen with another settings options. If you are in the meeting room, please select the in-room participant. This will ensure that the Zoom webinar does not open for you in the meeting room. You will watch the meeting live on stage in the front of the room, please. If you are a virtual attendee at home, please select virtual remote attendee, and you will receive that Zoom webinar so that you can listen to the meeting and follow along and watch all of the slides. If you are in the meeting room but need to leave early, you can go to the settings menu in the upper left-hand corner at any time, and you can change your settings so that the Zoom does open for you after you leave. Okay, so once we have all of our settings configured, you will then be logged into the meeting platform. For virtual attendees at home, you just have one additional step. You will need to click on that blue Join button to join the Zoom webinar that is inside of the Lumi meeting platform. This will allow you to see and hear the meeting proceedings. Okay, the next step for those virtual attendees at home is to click usually Join with computer audio, just like you would in any Zoom meeting. If you do not have stable internet and you do not want to use the audio from your laptop, you can click on the phone call option and you can listen to the Zoom meeting on your telephone and then watch it on your computer. So just like any Zoom meeting, you have all of those same options within the Lumi platform. For in-person attendees, to log into the same meeting platform, you can pull up your email and click on the link, or you may also go to the WSSDA General Assembly website and click on the big blue button that says Join General Assembly. Or a third option is there will be QR codes in the room. If you are using your mobile phone in the meeting room, you can take out your phone, open the camera, click on the QR code, and be taken directly to the Lumi meeting platform. you will have the same steps to log in as well. So you will first be taken to an information page, scroll down, click on the I agree button and continue. And then you will be taken to the same page where you can select I am a voting delegate or I'm an audience member. And if you are a voting delegate, type in your district's ID and assigned password. For those in the meeting room, please make sure you select in-room participant, and this will ensure that you do not get that Zoom webinar. We don't want everyone in the meeting room streaming the meeting. We want you to watch in the front of the room, please. Okay, do we have any questions about how to log into the platform, whether you are at home or in the meeting room?
Thanks, Michelle. I've asked everybody to please enter their questions into the chat. Please don't hesitate to ask here. Better to know before going in than wait until the day of, although that's fine too. I guess one question I'd just like to clarify or point I'd like to make is that the button to enter General Assembly from the WSSDA website will actually be under Events and General Assembly, and then at the very top of the WSSDA.org/GA home page. So it's not technically the WSSDA homepage, it is the General Assembly page. And depending on how your screen reads it, it might look a little purplish. So don't take the blue definition or description too technically. It'll be a bluish purple or a purplish blue on the WSSDA homepage, depending on how you look at it. And then would you actually answer the question how you vote remotely?
Yes, so you do vote remotely through this Lumi platform. We will get to the voting in just a minute. We're going to go through the layout right now. The voting is the simplest part. You just click on the option that you'd like to see on your screen, and that's it. There's no submit button. We'll go over that in just a minute. But the voting will be in this platform. If you're at home or if you're in the room, everyone will vote in this Lumi meeting platform.
Great, thank you. And I'll turn my screen on just because I think this is a question for me to answer. Had a question about how did you determine what your district ID is? We have asked for each school board to identify a voting delegate. Even if you have more than one planning to attend over the course of the 2 days, one at a time, there needs to be one voting delegate who registers on behalf of the board. That should probably be the person who's planning to log in first on Friday to take some of the first proposals. That person who registers with their email address will receive an email or have already received an email with voting credentials. So when you log in, as Michelle will walk you through, you will log in based on your district name and then the unique credentials or password that you receive from us via email after your voting delegate has registered. That's it. Now it's for you, Michelle.
Perfect. So now we know where our credentials are coming from. We know how to get to the platform. Now let's talk a little bit about the meeting platform layout and how we will use it during the meeting. So once we are logged into the meeting platform, virtual attendees at home on a laptop or desktop, they will see a split screen. The Zoom panel will be on the right-hand side. That's where you'll see the meeting, hear the meeting, see the PowerPoint slides, see the speakers. The Lumi panel will be on the left-hand side of your screen, and it will be where you will vote, where you will view the documents, where you will request to speak. Okay, so the first page that you are taken to is the home screen. It's the first one you will see where you log in. You can always go back to this home screen by clicking on the Home tab from the top menu at any time. You will find out information about how to use this platform, information about how to pass credentials. There are links to the homepage, the WSSDA General Assembly homepage, and the WSSDA General Assembly handbook as well. So lots of good information on this homepage. Okay. If you are planning to attend the meeting in person, again, we discussed, please do not open that Zoom meeting. Please select in-room participant. You will not get the Zoom webinar at all. If for some reason you do still see the Zoom option, please do not click on it. In the meeting room, please do not stream that Zoom meeting. Please just watch in the front of the room. Let's talk a little bit more about the Zoom settings for those at home who will be watching that Zoom meeting. If you do not, I'm sorry, I'm going to go back one slide here. If you do not see the Zoom panel on your right-hand side of the screen, if for some reason you don't have that side by side, It might be because your screen ratio is too zoomed in. So that zoom panel might be minimized along the side of your screen or your bottom of your screen. So we do suggest to click on those three little dots in the very top right-hand corner of your web browser, and that will bring up the menu for your web browser. Halfway down the menu is the option for your screen ratio of your web browser. We do recommend that it be set to 80% to 100%. That will readjust the screen size and will give you that split screen experience so that you have both panels on your screen at the same time. Okay, virtual attendees, now that you have that split screen view, there's a few other things you can do for better viewing experience at home. You may click on the three lines, that little hamburger icon from the top left corner. That will minimize that menu and just make the center of your screen just slightly larger. And if you would like to make that zoom panel even larger for easier viewing of small text on those PowerPoint slides, you can also click on the little white square icon in the top right-hand corner. This will maximize that zoom panel and it will make it the full screen so that it looks like this, so that it is easier to view small text on that PowerPoint screen. If you'd like to go back to that split screen view, in the top right-hand corner, that icon will turn into a little white X, and that will take you back to the split screen view. That will get you out of that full screen view. Okay, so now we've talked about the Zoom panel on the right for those at home. Now let's talk about that Lumi panel on the left-hand side of the screen. Virtual attendees at home will see that Lumi panel on the left-hand side of the screen. In-person attendees in the meeting room will only have this Lumi panel. They will not have that Zoom panel. Okay, so one of the options on this left-hand side on this Lumi panel is the Documents module. You can access documents here. We have instructions on how to use this platform. We also have the General Assembly Handbook here. So once you click on that Documents tab from the top menu, then you will see the list of the documents in the center of the screen. You can click on the document to open it inside the Lumi platform. And there will also be a download button. So you can also download any of these documents for viewing outside of the Lumi platform later. And when you are done reading one of the documents, you can simply click on the little X in the top right-hand corner. It will close that document and take you back to the documents list. Marissa, do we have any questions about how to view the Documents module on our platform so far?
No, not at present, but I would point our current attendees to the chat where I have uploaded two of those documents that you just referenced. While they will be in the Lumi platform, it will be helpful for you to print out one of them, depending on how you plan to participate. They are designated by in-person attendee versus virtual attendee. Please print out or have available the one that makes sense based on how you are participating. And as such, you will also get instructions on how to pass voting credentials. Are you also planning to address that as well?
Yes, we do have a slide on that as well.
Awesome, great. And I will repost for latecomers.
Perfect. So
Thank you.
now we will go on to the fun part, the voting part, the real reason we are all here. So the voting will also appear on that left-hand panel on the Lumi panel. You will not see the voting tab when you first log in. When the president opens the vote, you will then see the vote automatically pop up on your screen, and you will then see that voting tab in that top menu. So for in-person attendees, if you're on a mobile phone and you don't automatically see that vote pop up, you can go to the top menu. You might need to scroll the menu over to the right, and then you will see that voting tab, and then you can click on the voting tab to get to this voting page. But it should automatically pop up on most all new devices. Even if you're at home and you made your Zoom full screen, when the vote pops up, it will automatically minimize it to half screen, so you cannot possibly miss the vote. So when the president says vote open, you will see it automatically pop up on your screen if you are logged in with the voting credentials for your district. If you have logged in as a guest, if you selected the I am an audience member button and logged in as a guest, you will not see the vote pop up. Only those individuals logged into the platform with the district ID and password will see that vote pop up.
And while we're at it, Michelle, can I ask, if I were a voting delegate, How would I know that my vote actually was counted?
Well, like I said, to cast your vote, you simply click on your button, click on your option, and it will be highlighted. So you can see it will turn blue. And then there will be a little text up above it that will say pro, vote received, or con, vote received. So as long as you see that confirmation text up at the top, that is how you know that your vote has been counted. There is no submit button. You simply click on your choice. If you select pro and then you wish to change your mind, you can then select con. That little text up at the top will change, and that will confirm your most recent vote, and you will see your most recent vote highlighted.
Great, thank you. And what if I push the wrong button?
You can change your vote at any time until the chair says, okay, vote closed.
Perfect.
Once the chair says vote closed, we will close the vote on our end. The screen will go black and the vote will disappear. But you can change your vote as often as needed before the chair says vote closed.
And just for the benefit of everyone out there, you will have 20 seconds from the time the vote opens until the time the vote closes, which is actually a pretty long time, especially once you get the practice down pat. You'll be like, why can't we close it earlier? But for the sake of making sure you click on the right button and have time to switch if you need to, we've issued 20 seconds to allow you ample time to cast your vote.
And just as a reminder, there's no submit button. It's just one click to cast your vote, and that's it, or one click to change your vote if you need it. No submit button. Any questions about how to cast your vote? I don't see any in the chat at this time.
I think we're good for now.
Perfect. Then let's move on to our second favorite thing, the speaker queue. How do we request to speak? Okay, so all attendees will have the same couple of first steps. Virtual attendees at home and in-person attendees, they will all join the same speaker queue in the same manner. So step one will be to click on the speaker queue tab from that top menu. It will be the home page tab, then the speaker queue tab, then the documents tab. So we click on that speaker queue tab, and then we're taken to that speaker queue page. So step one is to select the topic that you will be speaking on from the drop-down menu. You may select request to speak pro, request to speak con, ask a clarifying questions. All of the options that you may speak on are in that drop-down menu. So please make your selection from the drop-down menu and then press this little arrow icon to the right. That will submit your request. You will see a brief message down at the bottom of your screen, a big black box that pops up that says received. So that is how you know that your request has been sent. You do get that received message. So you have now joined the speaker queue. We now have your district name and the topic that you'd like to speak on in the speaker queue. And the WSSDA staff will be reviewing the speaker queue and sending them to the chair to call upon. So after you submit your request, please be patient. Please wait to be called upon. In-person attendees, you may walk to the waiting area near the microphones to be closer, but please wait to be called upon in the meeting room and please wait to be called upon at home. Okay. And then once you are called upon, in-person attendees, you may simply approach the microphone, introduce yourself by name and district, and begin speaking. Virtual attendees at home, we do ask you to raise your hand in the Zoom. The raise hand button is right at the bottom of your Zoom panel. It'll allow our production staff to more quickly find you. So when you are called upon and you'd like to speak from home, please raise your hand in Zoom. If you raise your hand in Zoom and the chair has not called on you, you will not be acknowledged. We will just lower your hand. So after the chair has called upon you and you have raised your hand in Zoom, our production staff will promote you to a panelist. So you will get a little pop-up that says, we want to promote you to a panelist. And virtual attendees at home, please click on that blue button that says join as a panelist. It may look like you're kicked out of the Zoom. It takes 2 to 3 to 4 seconds for you to be promoted to a panelist, but you are not being kicked out of the Zoom. You're just being promoted. Once you come back into the Zoom as that panelist, you will then have full control over all of your Zoom buttons. You will be able to unmute your microphone. You will be able to turn your camera on, and then please introduce yourself by name and district, and you may begin speaking. Just like a normal Zoom webinar, you'll be promoted to a panelist, then you can join, then you can unmute yourself, and then you can begin speaking.
Can I make a point here just in a moment of pause, Michelle?
Absolutely.
Just want to remind everyone that regardless of how you're participating, if you're an in-room voting delegate or you're a voting delegate from anywhere else, that everyone is expected to use the speaker queue to participate in General Assembly. So you will only be called upon, regardless of where you're sitting, if you enter the speaking queue, and the persons will be called upon in the order that they submitted their requests to speak. And there will be no preference given to anyone dependent on their location. One just thing to note is that for each proposal, there is 5 minutes allotted for pro speakers and 5 minutes allotted for con speakers. And once that time runs out, there will be a call for the vote. Maybe you were going to cover that. So sorry, Michelle, if I beat you
No,
to
thank you. That's great. And you got another question, Marissa. It says, how much time does each speaker get?
Like I just said, the speaker could speak for 5 minutes in favor or in opposition to a particular proposal, but that would mean nobody else would get the opportunity to speak to the same point. So we recommend that speakers keep their points concise. If you're giving testimony at the legislature, generally you're getting 60 seconds, and you can say a lot in 60 seconds while still leaving ample time for other people to bring their thoughts forward as well. So just to reiterate, 10 minutes total per proposal, 5 minutes on the favorable side, 5 minutes on the oppositional side in total, and in no particular order.
And there will be countdown timers in the Zoom for those at home and on the big screen in the front of the room for those in the room.
One more question just came up. Will motion to extend the time be possible? Yes, that will be allowable when Mike reviews parliamentary procedure and Robert's Rules of Order here after Michelle's presentation. Perhaps he can cover that in more detail, but it does require a 2/3 vote to extend the time.
Okay, let's do a quick review. I know it can seem like a lot to speak from the floor, but we do have a few steps in place to make it a very orderly process. So step 1 for everybody is to click on that speaker queue tab from the top menu. Step 2 for everybody is to select the topic that you'd like to speak on from that drop-down menu. Step 3 for everybody is to press that arrow icon to submit your request. Step 4 for everybody is to wait to be called upon by the chair, by the president. And then in-person attendees may move to the waiting area near the microphones. Once they are called upon, in-person attendees may approach the microphone, introduce themselves, and begin speaking. Once you are called upon, virtual attendees at home, please raise your hand in Zoom. We will promote you to a panelist, and then you can unmute your own microphone, turn your camera on, introduce yourself, and begin speaking. Any other questions about how to join the speaker queue or how to speak remotely or in the meeting room?
I'll give folks a second in case they want to ask a question in the chat. One additional recommendation or point to make to all of you who will be joining us virtually. The Zoom, the camera option is new this year. We haven't done that previously, so that's an add-on to our previous practice. Due to request to be seen. However, you are not required to turn your camera on. So if you're having a bad hair day or having a bad internet day, you can leave your camera off. You can speak without the camera. We just wanted to offer that as another added option for participants who are joining virtually so that they can be visible should they choose to do so, but it's certainly not a requirement. If you find that you're trying to, after you wait that period of time for the Zoom to pull you into the meeting, if you find that your your ability to speak is kind of splotchy, and the presiding officer, most likely Sandy Hayes, the WSSDA board president, lets you know that. Before you sign off, I would just turn your screen off first and continue to speak. That may help alleviate some of the tech problems. A couple questions actually for me, if you don't mind, Michelle, in the queue. Are more people voting or attending remotely or in person? We have probably, I'd say, this is a rough estimate, 2/3 of our voting delegates presently are attending virtually, while 1/3 in the room. So the majority of voting delegates will be participating virtually. And districts who have registered their voting delegate, boards who already have had a voting delegate register, have already received their voting credentials. If you were a registered voting delegate and you have not yet received your voting credentials, it may be because you just recently signed up, you will be receiving those shortly. But if for some reason you don't have it before the actual day of the event, please check your spam folder in the case that it got clogged up in there somewhere. Michelle, what else you got for us?
I have one last note, how to pass credentials. I know we touched on this a little bit, but here are the official instructions for how to pass the credentials. As Marissa said, only one voting delegate from each district may be logged into the system at a time. Other delegates from that same district may be logged in as a guest, as an audience member for viewing only. Audience members may watch that Zoom, they may look at the documents, but audience members cannot cast their vote and cannot request to speak. So if you would like to pass the credentials to another voting member of your school board, simply log out of the Lumi meeting platform. In the upper left-hand corner, that hamburger icon, there's a log out option. And then give your district ID and password to the new voting member. They may then log into the Lumi meeting platform in your place. If you forget to log out of the Lumi meeting platform and the new person from your district logs in with that same district ID and password, you will automatically be kicked out, so that's no problem at all. If you would like to continue watching, you may then log in again as an audience member, not as a voting member. Any questions about how to pass credentials?
I don't see any in the chat. Again, I just remind folks that there's a guidance document that I uploaded into the chat. I'll do it again. That gives you instructions if you are the voting delegate participating remotely or virtually, or if you're the voting delegate participating in person. That will largely answer most of your questions. And if you have a question about your voting credentials, I just see that someone who had already registered their voting credentials had been sent to them but went into their spam folder. So if you haven't received it yet and you had already registered, please look there first. And then wait another 24 hours as about, we're getting a 10 to 15 people registering every day right now. So we're trying to keep up with issuing voting credentials following that. If you are an in-person attendee, there will be instructions in front of you on your tables at General Assembly. And for those who are joining remotely, these instructions have been posted and shared. And so we'd recommend that you have access to them either by saving the instructions to your desktop or by printing them and having them available in front of you. I think that's it for us, Michelle.
That's all I have on the platform, unless anyone else has any other questions on the Lumi meeting platform for me.
No more questions for you at present, although I'm sure they'll be coming. Are you planning on staying with us for the remainder of time by chance?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome, great. So if folks have a thought later on and want to ask Michelle, she'll be with us for another 20 minutes. Appreciate your time and thorough explanation. For folks who are not here, they can watch this as a recording, and folks who were here and missed some details can also watch the recording, which we will post to the WSSDA website. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Absolutely. Don't be intimidated. Once you log in, it is very simple to use.
It's true. And it is essentially the same system that we have used for the last 4 General Assemblies. And so there have been some system improvements, but largely the sign-in functionality and whatnot are consistent from year to year if you've done it before. Great. Thank you so much, Michelle. Had a question about how many districts are registered. As of about 24 hours ago, we had 128 districts registered, and I believe we've had a handful more register since then. So we may actually have hit a record in terms of registration numbers. Last year at General Assembly, we had a record number of voting delegates sign in to start the meeting. I'm going to miss the specific number, but it was over 130 and under 140. So would love to break that record this year. So there's still chance to register and get your voting credentials if you haven't done so already. Thank you so much for those questions. So with that, I'm going to, in the interest of time, pass it over to Mike Hoover, who has been working for WSSDA for the last several years as a consultant, helping with the advocacy team on your behalf. And this year is being brought on to General Assembly as your official parliamentarian. The last several years, we've used a parliamentary advisory committee comprised of school board members, but based on feedback from all of you, as well as from the committee members themselves, felt it would be in everyone's best interest to have an official parliamentarian who also has a good sense of humor. Therefore, Mike was the perfect fit. So Mike, I'll pass it over to you to give a little bit of what's what about Robert's Rules.
Thank you. I will do my best. It's a 600-page book and we got 15 minutes, so I like my chances of getting through it. I will say there are a couple ways you can prepare for something like this. One is you can study and get up to speed on it, or you can do what I do and you can cheat and have Marissa give you the questions in advance. And that's actually what I did. She actually gave me a bunch of FAQs in advance because I only do have the 15 minutes. So I'm kind of going to go through them. And the first question is, why do we use these rules at all? Why do we use Robert's Rules of Order? And kind of one thing I thought about, and I think about this stuff a lot because I don't have a normal life, is it's right in the name. It's rules of order. They're not rules of procedure. And the opposite of order, I think, is chaos. It would be absolute chaos to have everybody doing all this business kind of randomly without. That's why the Senate, that's why the House, that's why a bunch of organizations need some rules. The rules help you organize your business, and the rules are self-organizing. They tell you what to do when and how to do it. I think that's why we use them. The other thing they do is they have sort of a, for lack of a better way to say it, an equity element to it. They protect the rights of the minority. They make sure that everybody gets a chance to speak. It is your right to air your opinion and participate in the debate. You don't have a right to a particular outcome, but you absolutely have a right to speak, to make your position known, to debate things, all that kind of thing. And Roberts lets you do that. This is blurry every time I do it, but anyways, I got the book. That's kind of what the point of it is. The minority may not win, you may not carry the day, but you're going to get a chance to get heard. And that's a big part of what we're trying to do with the meeting. And you will be heard if you want to be heard. Another question, what does a parliamentarian do and how are you qualified to do it? A parliamentarian is somebody like a referee who, for a game, if you're watching the game, they make the calls as to what the rules are and what's in play, and if we need to reset something. Actually, a parliamentarian doesn't actually make that call. The president makes that call, but I help the president, and I would advise her as to what our rules say and what the rules of procedure are. How am I qualified to do it? Well, that is a good question. I think the jig is up. About 25 years ago, it was right after the earthquake, is how I remember it. I was working at the Senate and some folks said, how would you like to be a parliamentarian? And I said, well, what do you have to do? And they said, well, you got to go take this course for 2 weeks in Minneapolis in the summer. And I said, oh, I don't want to do that at all. And they said, we don't really care. You're going. So I went and did that, and I became the parliamentarian for the Senate for about, I want to say 12 or 13 years. And then I was the parliamentarian for the House of Representatives for like 6 years. And then I went to King County Council and was their parliamentarian for a few years. And then I became sort of a consultant lobbyist, and I sort of have done some parliamentary work for a bunch of groups, including the Association of Counties, and now WSSDA. So let's see how it goes. I've got a lot of experience with it, a lot of different groups using different rules, but most of them use Robert's Rules of Procedure. And there is a hierarchy of authority to all of this stuff. It sort of makes sense if you think about it. There's a reason we do the things we do and how I get the answers I get. You may know this analogy may not be perfect, but like think of education. You're probably familiar with that topic. You have your statewide policies that everybody has to do. Then you have your district policies that you do in the district. Then you have the what you do at the school, what those procedures are, and then you may have different, your own specific rules for a classroom. It can get that. It's always funneling down. That's how the hierarchy works. You can't be at odds with something above the hierarchy, but you can supplement, and that's what goes on. That's why we have all these things. So WSSDA, you have some stuff actually in the RCWs. It's not really applicable to what we're probably going to do at our meeting, but it's there if you ever want to go look. We also have bylaws. And then we have our rules of procedure. We have an amendment deadline document that's been adopted. And then we have Roberts that supplements and kind of works to make sure all of those moving parts work together. If one of those other documents I mentioned is at odds or sets forth a different way to do something instead of what we do in Roberts, instead of what Roberts says, we use what that document says. Now, why would ever something be at odds with what Roberts has in it? Well, the reason is Roberts is made for a bunch of different groups. It's not made for your organization. It's not made with educators in mind. It's not made with our assembly in mind. It's a very general policy. So it's very common for groups, the Senate and the House, for instance, they use Reed's rules first. Reed's is a document that is made for legislators. It's made for legislation. Your rules of procedure that you're adopting are made for your meeting. So we use this to supplement that. So if you're sitting there going, Mike, that's a lot of reading material. I'm not going to read all that. And I would say, I agree, you should not read all of it. But you might want to go read the rules of procedure that you're about to adopt, because those are only 4 pages long. That's not too long. You can do that. And it's only, it covers most of the basics of what we're going to do. So if you're only going to read one thing, go look at those and get at least a passing familiarity with it, because it talks about a lot of the credentialing and the delegates and all that kind of stuff and how we do things. And again, it is specific to our group. Okay. I'm going to go through a couple more of these questions pretty quickly. I don't know how I'm doing on time, frankly.
You're doing great.
Okay, good. Okay, here's one. What if we adopt more than one change to an existing proposal? This is very common with a group. You are going to take up certain things in your consent agenda, for example. I don't remember how many items there are in the consent agenda. Are there like 40 some, maybe?
40 plus.
Okay, 40 plus is a good number. So you're going to be changing 40, assuming you adopt that consent agenda, you're going to be making changes to 40 some policies right there and then later you're going to come back and take up some of those proposals again, and you're going to possibly add on to them, and you may even have amendments to those proposals, and all of this stuff is getting voted on. So at the very end, what we will do is I assume it will probably be me, Marissa. I don't really know, the president. I don't know who does it, but it'll be us. It'll be somebody, staff. We will neutrally go back and reconcile it. We're going to do that after the meeting so that we don't take your time during the meeting. You only have 2 days to do all your business, and it would take valuable time to go reconcile all these things. But when the meeting is concluded, we will reconcile it, meaning that we will make sure all the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed. We will not make any substantive changes whatsoever, but we will make sure that all of the policy you adopted is correctly reflected in the right places and it all works together. That's essentially what we will do. If there's something at odds, I believe there's a separate policy for how a different group reconciles all of that. But I don't, but in general, the idea is everything you adopt will be made to work together to the maximum extent possible.
You mind if I interject there, since it's relevant?
Don't mind, because
to answer your question, who does it? Staff. So we'll be taking very attentive notes while the conversations are going on, and be sure that any adopted changes by the body are reflected as soon as possible, as early as the following Monday or Tuesday, into the positions catalog. The reason for that is that the next step following General Assembly is that school boards get to determine what their priority legislative positions are. So it's imperative to us that we turn around your new adopted language language as quickly as possible so that you can in turn tell us what your legislative priorities are for 2025. And then you mentioned something about what if there's a conflict. There is an operating policy that lays out a position subcommittee. That position subcommittee is comprised of members of the WSSDA board, legislative and resolutions committee who review the position language, identify where that conflict might exist, and provide a recommendation to the WSSDA board about how to potentially resolve that conflict. The WSSDA board will take that up as an official board meeting agenda item and determine how they want to move forward. This has not happened in my time here, so I'm not exactly sure all the details, how it plays out, but it will be done in accordance with Robert's rules, transparency and openness. So just note that, and there is a process in place to handle it should it come.
Great. Yeah. And again, that is done to save time. Other groups do the same kind of thing so that you can keep moving on and be assured that everything you voted on is going to be correctly reflected. But what are you going to be voting upon? You're going to be voting upon a number of things, including proposals. And then in some cases, there are amendments to the proposals. And I actually did a video on this. I don't know if you've seen it or we can make that available. But if you're ever bored and have 10 minutes approximately, you can go watch that video. You can show your friends and then it won't be your friends anymore, I guess. But you can show them. And you can take a look at that. And it talks about how we do amendments and how we do motions and how things have to be germane, meaning they have to relate to each other. But essentially, in practice, if this is going to be confusing, we're going to do like 50 some of these, so you're going to get it down. We will take up the proposal and you will vote upon that proposal unless there's an amendment to it. If there's an amendment to it, you'll first consider that. We work sort of backwards. So there's a proposal, an amendment to it. You will consider the amendment because you got to do that. You got to decide, hey, do we like this amendment or do we prefer the original proposal? In most cases, because of the way these particular amendments are drafted, if the body chooses to adopt the amendment, that'll be it. You're done because the amendment tends to include all the language of the underlying proposal. So you'll only take it up once and vote once. So it will actually be less confusing than it appears. And there aren't that many. Were there 12 amendments, Marissa, is what I want to say? I think there were something like.
In the position window, there were 13, but there was some duplication. So I think all in all, you'll be looking at 9 amendments in the voting order.
Right.
And those are all indicated in the handbook with the letter A. So you've got the original proposal that has a number. And then if there was an amendment to that proposal, it'll have an A associated with that original number.
Right. So it's actually not that much work, frankly, to take a look at these. You've got all your proposals in general, which you're going to want to get familiar with anyways, because you're going to be voting on those. And then there will be approximately 9 instances where you'll have to look at that proposal and a proposed amendment and see which of those you prefer, if either. Maybe you don't like either of them, but but if there's 2 proposals, if there's an amendment and the proposal, you'll need to decide how you're going to vote and what you want to do on that. And a lot of times, again, if you take the amendment, you're done. We don't go to the proposal in this case because it's included already. It's all or nothing kind of. On the other hand, if you say, nope, I don't like this amendment, I want to get to the underlying proposal, you would not adopt the amendment, and then you would take the proposal as it was originally proposed. That's a lot of proposed in one sentence, but I think you followed it. It's actually not going to be that complicated in practice because, again, we're going to do the however many policy proposals all the way through, and it's only those few instances where there are amendments. And where there's the amendments, you'll have that choice to make. Which of those do you prefer and how do you want to proceed? And we'll probably, again, some of this may seem a little overwhelming, but it's really not. When we go through a couple of them, I think you'll get it down because it's mostly us doing the same thing over and over again. It's bringing up the proposal, seeing if there's an amendment, taking a vote, having the debate on the amendment, voting on the amendment, and then if the amendment passes, we're done. If the amendment fails, then we go to the underlying proposal and do the same thing over and over again, saying, hey, have a debate, have a vote, and move on. And we just go through until we get to the end. And that's pretty much it. So how do you best prepare to engage in the General Assembly? Well, the first thing is probably of the two presentations you're watching today, that Lumi thing was more important because you got to get that right. You got to know how to log in and do all of that. I didn't pay attention to that because I don't need to. I'm not going to be voting, but you are, and so you need to make sure you got that part right. The second thing is I would tell everybody, if you're the kind of person that is stressed about this, don't be. Relax. It's going to be great. It's going to actually be kind of fun to do it. I'm not stressed about it. I probably should be, but I'm not. Don't be stressed about it. It's a process that we're going to go through, and it's going to be a fun meeting. You don't have to be an expert in Roberts. I'll say it again. You do not need to be an expert on Roberts. Read the rules of procedure, focus on those, and maybe watch that 10-minute video that I talked about, because it's got a lot of stuff in there about how we do things. And I think you will be good to go. And then you will watch it, and you will, at about day 2, when you become an expert, we're done, because that's how learning works. So that's kind of all I have on this for now, Marissa, because I thought I would save time for questions. And honestly, I don't know how I'm doing on time, but I'm available.
You're doing great. I don't see any questions. I will just point out in the chat that a link to your training video is posted there. So I hope folks click on that and save that and watch it immediately following this, because they're going to want to watch it a couple times before Friday, not just for learning, but also for entertainment. And then I do see a question for Mike, where will you be during General Assembly?
I'm going to be in Hawaii. Did you want me somewhere else? No, I thought I will be there. I will be at the hotel. I will be up at the podium. I will be seated. I don't know exactly, but I'll be seated in close proximity to the president.
That's
so
exactly
that we can have sidebars to make sure everything's going right as she decides to. I mean, she's great. She's done this before. She'll be great at it. But if she needs anything, I'll be right there if available and helping with that. So I will be there both days. Yes.
Absolutely. And, just depending on how things go, you might have a special outfit for Saturday. Who knows?
I might. And if you don't get that joke, you'll have to watch the video. It's not that good of a joke and not that good of a video, but you're going to be there. So you might as well get them both.
So true. Thank you, Mike. We're looking forward to it. And so
It's going to be great.
Yeah, so grateful that you'll be there to help guide Sandy as she presides as the WSSDA board president. A couple last things, maybe if you wouldn't mind staying on, Mike, in case some questions pop up in the chat. I just wanted to close by giving a little context for what it means to adopt positions as a voting delegate. I will just remind all of you that we already have 225 member adopted positions in the WSSDA position catalog. I will put in the chat a link for how you get there. As you think about preparing for General Assembly, there are 58 distinct proposals that are laid out in the voting order for consideration at this year's General Assembly. However, not all of the positions already adopted by membership will even be brought forward for discussion. So please don't forget that you already have member adopted positions, both permanent and legislative in nature, that may relate in some way already to the proposals that will be under consideration. So please have a wide view of your existing platform, because that will help inform your debate, discussion, and your vote as you go into General Assembly. Another thing I just wanted to note to all of you is that rarely do legislators actually look at WSSDA positions. That may come as a surprise to you, maybe even a disappointment, but they've got a lot on their plate and they are looking at a lot of words in other places. They have to look at the RCW. So they've got their hands full already. So as you're thinking about what's the purpose of WSSDA positions guide WSSDA staff on your behalf, or WSSDA members representing the organization determine how they are going to weigh in on bills and policy proposals that would affect school directors' governance, as well as K through 12 operations and practices. So sometimes your positions are adopted with generalities, sometimes they are adopted with specificity. Sometimes one is more helpful than the other, but I wanted to just quickly review for you what a member adopted platform and positions look like, just in case you have forgotten or it's been a while since you looked. So when you go to our new and beautifully designed, thank you, Sean Duke and team, WSSDA website, please go under advocacy to WSSDA positions. See WSSDA's position catalog. And I'll take as an example just this very first position, which was ranked #1 last year during the legislative positions prioritization process. I'll speak to that in just a moment. I'm just going to click on it so that you can take a look at this position. There's a lot of words in here. Some of your positions are short, some of them are long. Typically, the long ones are related to funding related positions because you want to make sure you get all the details in there because there are a lot of things we need our legislature to fund. I'll note that legislative positions often or always start with language, WSSDA shall initiate or support legislation that. And as you will see here, it's largely around ensuring that we're advocating for ample, in this case, ample and equitable funding based on student need. And then, so that would be general. I, as representing you in this role, would generally use this position proposal if there were a bill that would modify the prototypical school funding model to increase funds for, let's say, librarians or for paraeducators or central administration staff. This position, as you've adopted it and named specific staffing areas in here, would give me the understanding that you as membership want me to support that bill. In addition, this has even happened in the last couple of years, there might be a bill proposing a shift to regionalization factors. There was one a couple of years ago, I think it said something to the effect of wouldn't be more than 6% or maybe 4% between neighboring districts. I use this position proposal to recommend an amendment to that bill to lower it to 2% based on language adopted here by you, our membership. So, while bills are not, or at least rarely written based on WSSDA member adopted positions, amendments often come forward in alignment to your detailed recommendations and generally give WSSDA staff or you WSSDA board members sort of the guidance for how WSSDA as a representative organization will show up on your behalf. We are not writing legislation. We are not telling legislators what they can and cannot do, but the positions give us the opportunity to represent you in weighing in on bill proposals. One last plug before I bring us to a close is that immediately following General Assembly, so next Tuesday, presidents and ledge reps will receive an email basically saying now is the time to prioritize. Any of the legislative positions in your WSSDA platform will be available to prioritize. You'll have about a 2-week window to do that. Deadline off the top of my head is Tuesday, October 8th. We will take the culmination of all the boards that submit their priorities, take the top positions to inform what will be WSSDA's legislative priorities. The legislative committee takes a first review and gives feedback to ensure that it is in alignment with member prioritization. And then that document with the priorities will be taken to the WSSDA board for final approval. You can anticipate seeing that somewhere towards the end of October or beginning of November. So please participate in General Assembly and then please participate in the prioritization process. All of them are important for ensuring that your voice is heard with our state and federal legislators, and that your community needs are reflected in your organization, WSSDA, as we move forward into the 2025 legislative session. So grateful for you. Thank you for being here. Please don't hesitate to ask us any questions in the meantime. We are here to support and serve you and are grateful for all you do. See you in a few days. Thanks so much.